Thank you for joining us on our panel today. I am Chelsea Stowe, and I'm honored to work with dozens of you every semester. And today I'm joined by Danya, Jazmin, and Brent. We are here to talk about some of these three amazing students' stories, because it is through sharing your stories and raising your voices. Your stories have power, and that is what's going to help change the stigma against community college. All right, so let's start. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and whichever one of you feels like you would like to answer, go ahead, and then we'll move on. All right, so let's start by saying, what is it that drew you to Front Range Community College, and what do you think makes the college unique? Brent?
The fact that I didn't have to apply for like 1,000 different scholarships, welfare, just to be able to attend. One of the big things that I noticed when applying for colleges out of high school was the cost of tuition. And the fact that Front Range offers arguably the same education for a quarter of the cost, you might say, is absolutely incredible, I think.
Dana?
Biggest thing for me is class size. I've never done well in situations where there's too many people. So the idea of going to a school where like the average class size is over 100 people, it honestly it's not something that I was prepared for, and I don't think I would have succeeded if I had done it anywhere else.
That's true. And the large class size, I think the largest I ever taught was 500 students in a stadium. And that's definitely different than now when we get to know each other's names and we learn each other's stories, which is really important. All right, so what is one thing that you would say motivates you, gets you out of bed in the morning, a quote you live by?
My parents are my biggest motivation for anything that I do. They were born in Mexico, and so they came to the United States for better opportunities for their kids, and I was born and raised here. So definitely my parents are my biggest motivation. And a quote that I live by is un día a la vez, which is one day at a time. I used to be so stuck on just focusing so much on the future and not enjoying the present. And I think it's important for us to live in the moment and just at the end of the day be grateful that we lived through another day.
Which is very telling right now in finals, right? You're living through another day. All right. So one of the things that fits really well with the concept that we were discussing last week about the concept of Ubuntu, or I am who I am because of the people who have come before me. So what are some of those integral figures in your life who have helped build you up to be where you are? I know, Jazmin, you talked about your parents, which was really powerful.
For me, one of the biggest people in my life when I was younger was one of my old headmasters in high school. I am technically, well, not technically, I am. I'm half Middle Eastern. My dad is from Palestine, and trying to juggle as a teenager how to be a typical American girl as opposed to what I should be doing as a good Muslim girl. It was really difficult for me, and one of my headmasters was actually from the Middle East, and he really helped me, weave and make my way through all of those things and find who I really am. And that, luckily, and I'm very blessed that I get to be a combination of both.
That's awesome.
That person for me were both my grandparents, and more so my grandpa, being the overall father of our family due to unfortunate circumstances. He was, at a very young age, what I found to define the word man. Being a veteran and being very strong-willed, independent, very knowledgeable, always pushing us to achieve more and learn more, and to never see school as more of it as a necessity as compared to just simply something that you have to do because it's requested of you or expected of you, right? With all that in mind, I found that everything that I was to do through school, no matter if it was a simple test or more so applying for colleges and pursuing different careers and all that, it was all for him because I wanted him to know within himself that he had succeeded as a leader in our family.
I think that's a really important image as we think about carrying those people with us as we walk through the different seasons of our life, whether they are still with us and still in contact with us or if they have passed away, right? We take those voices with us and they become part of your voice. All right, so as we're thinking about that, and we talk about group communication, which we have studied a lot this semester. I know, an entire class focused on the group projects that you all love doing.
You're supposed to laugh here.
You're supposed to laugh. Thank you, Danya. So, as we're considering our communication skills, what do you think is one communication concept or skill that we as a society need to work on the most?
I think that it's getting past group hate. So many people, everybody that I've talked to this semester and before this semester, I've never heard a single person say, I like group work. And I think if people were just able to get over that fear and what their partner is going to do or what is going to happen, like they'll find it's actually super enjoyable and way less stressful.
So we could bring that confirmation bias in with us and cause the group to perhaps go differently than it could have if we get removed that bias.
Yeah.
Awesome. Brent and Jeff.
I think that we should be more open to asking for help. I think a lot of the times we just rely on ourselves to do everything, but we can really gain a lot of knowledge by asking for help, and sometimes somebody may have resources that you are not able to, and so yeah, I think just asking for help.
A big thing for me that I have come to realize is that there's not enough quote-unquote hype men in a lot of groups that ups things like team morale and everything like that, because I see, having, based on past work experiences and school experiences and everything like that, everyone sees group work as more of a task, right? A daunting requirement that you simply have to work through. And I feel like there's not enough focus on the enjoyment of it and the appreciation of the individuals. So, for example, whenever I'm in a group, I've done this in our class groups as well as past working groups. You know, simple things as complimenting someone on how they're doing, or just saying, hey, I appreciate you as a member of my team, you're doing great. Even awesome, fun exclamations to keep everybody in a good mood and all that good spirits is a huge key in successful groups and all that.
Absolutely. So that social aspect, or building up the relationships between members, can be really important. All right, we also talked in class about lollipop moments. So what is a seemingly small act or gesture or word someone said to you, but that had big ripples across your life?
I think for me, when I was a little kid, I spent 2 years living with my dad, and I was terrible at homework. Like, I was just nothing. I was so bad at it. And I remember one day my dad and I were, we were working on it, and I was like, I just can't do this. It's not going to work for me. It was like geography or something, which I'm still terrible at. Thank God for GPS. But my dad, he looked at me and he said, it's okay to get frustrated, but it's never okay to give up. And it's something I've carried it with me for the rest of my life. And I mentioned it to him a few years ago, and he was like, I didn't say that. And I was like, oh, but you did. So.
For me, I have a friend who was going through a really rough moment, and I didn't know it at the time, but I just told them that I loved them and that I appreciated them being my friend. And like a couple of weeks passed, and they told me that they were actually planning to commit suicide that day that I told them that. And so they were just very grateful that I even said that, and I think we need to tell people that we love them and that we care about them when you feel like you need to say it, because it can really impact somebody in a bigger way that you think.
A big moment for me was a question that my dad used to always ask me whenever I would go to his place on the weekend. He would ask me, Brent, what are you? And I would typically respond, because I didn't quite understand the question at the time, I'd say, well, I'm black. He never allowed me to respond that way. He would get very livid. He would say, you're one of three things. Actually, you are three things. Brent Jesus Bill. It's the only thing you are, that's the only thing you will forever will be, right? And that connects to, as you had asked earlier, what's a quote that influences your life? Mine being a Friedrich Nietzsche quote, that quote being, those who were seen dancing were called insane by those who could not hear the music, right? And I found that throughout my life, there have been many instances where I felt myself singled out simply because of something that I said, maybe something I did. If it was Spirit Week in school, I was the only one in a given class that was dressed in a Spider-Man costume. But I've come to embrace those moments because it's those bold bits of text, right? In a 12-point font, Times New Roman double-spaced essay, you're the Comic Sans, navy blue, underlined, and all that. And I feel like those little bits of text are more important than the rest of that essay.
I will admit, I was really expecting you to tell me you were a brontosaur or something like that, because I expected that with your humor, but yeah. But those parts of our story are powerful, and we often gloss over them or downplay them, right? Like Tim noted in the description of our panel, community college students are excelling around the world, and despite that, you still face heavy stigma. And I've probably had people say things to you about attending a 2-year school that are simply not true, right? So as we take that and we make ownership of our narrative, it's important to tell it.